Hi, it's Therese from Lostinpaper and I'm back as guest designer for Neat Tangled, and today I'm going to be creating two cards using the Floral Heart stamp set, and it has a matching nice and neat die, so I'll be using that as well. So I've started by stamping out the heart twice, and the cards are going to be similar but different. So I have a piece of recycled cardstock here that's cut the same size as my card front, and that's stamped in some Memento Tuxedo Black because I'm going to be doing some Copic colouring there. And my second heart I'm actually stamping onto some Bristol Strathmore cardstock. This is the smooth cardstock, so it does actually stamp really well. If you did decide to use cardstock that was more sort of watercolour cardstock with a textured finish, then you might want to use a stamp positioning tool. But I am going to be doing a little bit of watercolouring here, and I have used my archival jet black ink because of that. So I've grabbed my Tombows because I wanted this sort of coral colour for the flowers, and the other colours that I want, I didn't have any Tombows with the greens that I wanted, so instead of getting out watercolour paints and things, it was just easier to grab my zigs. So I actually coloured the leaves here with my zig clean colour real brush markers. I'm having a hesitant moment. I think that's what they are, something like that. And I'm actually adding the colour first onto the cardstock, both the different sort of tones that I'm using, and then coming in with a wet brush and mixing them that way. Initially for my Tombows I did actually draw the lighter colour directly onto the cardstock and then add some colour to a block and pick it up with my paintbrush, and both ways work really well. It just depends on the depth that you want to create and how you want your finished project to look. I did sort of stamp and colour both images in the same sort of tone, so that's, you know, I did want to keep it fairly similar. But this one here I've decided to colour with the Copics, like I said, and I actually have left all the lids off to the side, so you should be able to tell which colours I did decide to use. Although with the greens I was struggling to get a similar sort of tone green to the one that I wanted. I don't know why I had it in my mind that I wanted this sagey kind of green, but there you go, I did. So sage olive, I suppose it was. But what I did here was actually have to mix up. I actually ended up changing my lightest colour green. I found it was just a little bit too, dare I say, greeny green. Is there such a thing? I don't think so. So really simple Copic colouring here. I didn't want anything too fancy. I wanted both the cards to be very clean and simple, and I literally just laid down the lightest colour, then came in with my shadow colours and then went back over the top with the lightest colour yet again. Now this is recycled cardstock, and it doesn't so having a different kind of cardstock, you do have to be careful when you're adding your mediums, because they're not going to react the same as if you use them on your normal white sort of cardstock. And I did try and be a bit careful to prevent the bleeding of the colour, but it did happen in a couple of places, so I just had to come back in with my zero colourless blender and remove a bit of the colour. I've die cut the word awesome out of some mirror gold cardstock and die cut it a second time because this is a really intricate die, and I've die cut it a second time with some fun foam, and I'm using my matte medium, and I'm trying to be very sparing with this matte medium, because if you've ever adhered mirror cardstock to anything with a liquid glue and you get any on the actual mirror, it doesn't work. It just ends up, you lose your shine, and it bothers me when that happens. So initially I decided to keep the die intact and actually die cut the wreath, the heart wreath, sort of out as one, and I'm just holding that in place with some low tack tape. But when I pulled it apart, I actually hadn't lined it up very well at all, and I'd cut the inner portion of the white off, And while I'm thinking about what to do with that, because I don't want to start again, not with, this is the watercolor one, and watercoloring does take a bit more time than the Copics. If it had been Copic, I probably would have just done it. But anyway, here's how I fixed it. I actually cut some of the fun foam, because I decided to put a fun foam back behind it, away from the base, and then use my liquid glue to adhere the actual die cut cardstock on top. But when I adhered the die cut cardstock on top, I actually set it a little bit higher than the die cut fun foam was, so that makes it, actually, it's a bit of a trick. The fun foam actually becomes the white edge that I'd accidentally cut off. So then I decided to separate my two pieces of dye, and I just thought I'd share this with you. When I actually separate them, see how the larger die has the other one within it? I'm actually cutting as close to the edge of the larger die as I can, because I find it really hard to get back in there and cut tiny pieces of the metal off. You know how it's a really thin metal? These aren't particularly good metal snips, but they work well because it's not really strong metal that you're actually cutting through with these. But much easier to cut the metal away from the outer edges of the die cut. So for my second card, this is the recycle one. I'm swapping back and forth because I'm doing this in stages. I did cut a piece of copy paper with the inner die, and then I found it easier just to line up, because I can actually see through the copy paper, but just, and I've lined up the inner die and holding it in place, including the copy paper, and then I can run that through my die cutting machine and remove the center of the die, because this die I'm actually going to be seeing the other heart. We're not going to see as much of the die cut, so this is actually I wanted this one to be perfect. So I'm working out my card, how I want the whole thing to be now. This is the first card. I've gone back again and I've sort of laid out my pieces, and I want this awesome, yeah, I know, hold it up the right way. This awesome die cut to sort of go across the heart, and it wasn't actually going to be high enough. This is like a 3mm foam. So what I did was take the insert of the foam that I'd already cut previously, and from the heart, when I did the double cut with the heart, and worked out where my die cut word was going to be, and then I've actually doubled, that means that I've doubled up the fun foam in that area. I want to stamp out the rest of my sentiment on both card fronts now, and this is from the My Favourite Nut stamp set, and I selectively stamped the "You Are" on the blue background, and on this card I decided to do the whole piece of the sentiment which says "You Are My." Now this is just a piece of pale blue cardstock. I've added some ATG adhesive and popping up some fun foam on the back of that. I've just got some coloured fun foam that I need to use up, and I figured you're not really going to be able to see the blue through the blue, so it'd be perfect for that. I like to add the adhesive directly to the cardstock, so I'm adding it to my top fold, the front of my top fold card, and I haven't gone all the way to the edges because this blue panel is slightly smaller than the actual card front. I have also cut a piece of darker blue cardstock, and this is with the larger heart die, and I just wanted the background behind the heart to be a little bit darker, and I'm adhering that down on the center of my card, and then I can just actually come back with my matte medium and adhere the heart with the fun foam already on the back of it, just directly over top. And there's only one thing left to do on this card now, and that's to attach my awesome sentiment. So I've used my liquid glue yet again and peeled away all the inner pieces of the fun foam and just lining that up, and that fitted in. Is that English? Good English? It fit in well? It fitted in well? It was perfect. Okay, now the second card I decided to make a shaker. So I've added some stamp runner adhesive around the back of the window that I created before, and also a piece of acetate. Then I've come in with my ATG gun and added some adhesive over the rest of the card, and this is the piece of fun foam that I cut the original heart out for the other card. So this is a leftover piece of fun foam, and I'm actually using it as my well. And I have actually used some score tape around the inner edges, because if you've ever made a shaker before, if you don't seal the edges properly, you're gonna lose your shaky bits out the edges. And this is where I got the color combination idea from. These are some sequins from Neat Tangled. Aren't they just beautiful? The gold, silver, sparkling, clear it is, and also corally sort of peach color. Really, really pretty. And then I'm just using some more score tape around the edge, and this is just a really thin score tape that I decided to use. It doesn't need to be thick because it will hold pretty steadily. And once I've removed all the release paper, what I come and do here is add a second piece of acetate. And this way I don't have to worry about centering things on the front of my card. If I've already got the shaker well sorted before I try and attach my card front, it makes my life so much easier. Now I've got some tea rose ink and some pale, it's kind of a peachy pink coloured cardstock, and I'm stamping out the word favourite, and this is also from the My Favourite Nut stamp set. And then I can just adhere this behind my window. I could attach it to the front of my card, but I find it easier to attach it before I try and line things up on my card front. So I can actually line it up and then press down once I've got it perfectly over my shaker window. And then it's as simple as adding some more adhesive to the front of my top fold card and popping the whole panel on the top of the card. I did decide to add just a white sort of a bow to the top of this card, and that's both my finished cards, and that's me as guest designer for Neat Tangled. It's my final 2 cards today. I have had a blast playing with their fun products, their stamps and dies. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll be back again real soon. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.